Peace and blessings, and welcome to another edition of the How Now podcast, where we talk about how to live in the now. I'm your host, Kim Martin Raymond. I'm a minister, author, spiritual life coach, and founder of Redefining You LLC, where I help my clients to realign themselves, mind, body, and spirit. It's great to have you all here again for another episode as we continue to talk about how we're living in this now. And this evening's topic is one that can be somewhat sensitive because we're talking about living in a space where we've had some racial tensions, we've had some diversity, we've had some issues with inclusion, we've had many issues that have been taking place not only in society, but also trickling down into our personal lives and into our professional lives, in our workspaces. And these are areas that, we want to be able to touch and to speak on and to have an open dialogue about. And so I'm excited that my guest is here this evening. She is a dear friend of mine. We go way back. And so I am excited that she is here. So first, let me tell you what the title of this show is. It is Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the Workplace. And as is customary with the How Now podcast, I'm going to ask my guest to introduce herself at this time.
Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity, Kim. Again, we go way back, and I'm excited to be here today. Again, I'm Tina Greer of Greer Business Solutions, and what we do is provide coaching and consulting services to small business owners and teaching them, how to successfully bid on government contracts. So I'm excited to be here. In addition to that, being a business coach, I'm also a best-selling author, speaker, and trainer, and founder of Sisters United, which is a nonprofit organization helping women and children. So super excited to be here today.
Yes, thank you so much for being here, Tina. Like I said, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. You come with a wealth of knowledge, and we both have been on the platform, on the speaking platforms together. We have been in the similar spaces to talk about our publications and things of that nature. So again, I'm super excited that you are here. So let's get to business. We're going to get right down to it and start talking about this topic of diversity and equity and inclusion, because I'm sure that you've had opportunities to see those things in the in the arenas that you've spoken in. You speak about small businesses, and of course, when we talk about small businesses, we talk about customer service. We talk about how we interact with clients and how important it is to build your base, especially as a small business owner. But we know that in being able to meet customer needs, we also have to be, versed in diversity and in inclusion and in equity, because we don't want anyone to feel excluded when we're talking about providing services. So before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about what you were doing prior to the pandemic, as far as the type of coaching and training that you were doing.
Sure. A part of my coaching and training, I do work with clients all over the United States. How also, but I love to network and get out and meet new people, new business owners, attend events, attend trainings. So I was always on the go. And when the pandemic hit, it was an immediate stop. I was just explaining today with a colleague of mine. I took an actual girls' trip in January, not knowing what we were about to embark on with the shutdown of everything. So, being a coach, a virtual coach, that has just really, it's just really went 10x, if you will.
Right.
Regards to everything that I do is pretty much online, but I do miss that interaction, that physical interaction, that touch, that facial expression, being face to face to really not only verbally exchange, communicate, but physically as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Just like you said, there's an energy that you miss when, It's different when it's different when you have a choice. When you have a choice whether you could do something virtually or you could do something, physically. I know we tend to say, okay, we want to do the physical because we get our energy, especially as speakers. You want to go out there and you want to get a vibe from your audience. And when you're speaking to what seems to be an inanimate object, you're just like, okay, yeah, I see people in there, but you know, I, I really am not connecting with them. So I'm sure that that was a challenge. And I'm
Oh,
sure,
yes.
yeah, I'm sure that that's also a challenge when we talk about, interacting with customers, because some of them get their vibe and their energy from you. And so there have to be things that you do that makes that possible. Okay,
Exactly.
so
And I like to expound upon that because sometimes people, well, we know the saying, people do business with who they know, like, and trust.
that's right.
And also people do business with who they vibe with it. Where is that energy? And it's hard to convey your energy via the internet,
That's right.
via a platform, because people resonate with people that they have some type of commonality with. And they can feel and touch their energy. So, at being a coach, a virtual coach, especially in the in the pandemic, you have to go above and beyond to reassure your clients that, or potential clients, that you are a good fit for what, or provide the solution to what they need. So it is an effort. It's just, it doesn't happen just happenstance. You have to really give it your all, and also people feel people passion through
Right.
words, the words, how they articulate, the movement of their hands and so forth, their smile,
Right.
all those things we have to do virtually in this type of platform, especially to get our point across, especially since during the pandemic there was no choice. We could not be face to face.
That's right. That's right. And so, I mean, you know, we know that there's been a learning curve there, that there's been a learning curve where we've had to learn how to find creative ways to interact with people so that our expression, our self-expression can shine through. And that's where, we are coming into this topic of diversity and inclusion, because during this pandemic, we've seen a lot of people being angry about things. We found people being, you know, being in the position where there's been tensions, whether it be racial, whether it be, people who were saying that those who were of a different nationality is why this pandemic started, and we got into a lot of touchy areas, and those things started to trickle from our personal lives into our professional lives, and we started seeing an insensitivity towards a particular race, or we started seeing insensitivity towards a particular gender. We just really started to see people becoming more sensitive about who they are and who they represent. And I really think that that heightened as a result of the pandemic. I think that a big buzzword that we've heard a lot is empathy. I have people been showing empathy towards people and their reaction to this pandemic and to the situations that have been going on around this country with regards to racial tensions. So talk a little bit about where you started to see some of that in the organizations that you were interacting with.
Well, this is very interesting because one of the reasons why I wanted to take the course and obtain the certificate in diversity, equity, and inclusion is in corporate America, where the space where I was, where I obtained a majority of my experience in government contracts. I was within the company, one of the largest company that I worked for 12 years. I was the first African American, period, in my department doing what I did. And and also within obtaining my, in my educational realm, the higher I went up, the less of me I saw.
Mm.
I feel that I did not have the opportunity to be part of, ERG groups within corporate. There was no such thing. They didn't offer that. I never came across it. So, um, being able to, I wanted to know, like, what was I missing? Because I know that sometimes I'm the only one in the bunch,
Right.
other qualified individuals, or if I see another person that looks like me, I really just gravitate to them because it's only us versus, and I have someone to talk to,
Right.
on a different level. So I really wanted to understand diversity, equity, inclusion in a more educational format way because I know my personal experience, I did not have access to, what is really being really talked about now, especially in the pandemic and the racial, uprising, in the murders of African Americans and Asian Americans, all of that going on. And people now are like, diversity, equity, inclusion. They keep talking, they really
Mhm.
do, implement programs. And I wanted to know exactly what was that all about and how can I, if I was missing something, what I need to work on as a business owner.
Yeah.
You so that was very important to me. And I think that we as individuals, I think it's a part of your individual character,
Mhm.
and then also understanding that you need to be accepting of all.
Right.
Everybody doesn't feel that way, or they weren't brought up that way. So that may be you have to learn. You learn to hate. You
Right.
it doesn't. It's not like born in you. So
Right.
you need to learn, how to be have acceptance of other cultures, because America is a melting pot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you make a very valid point, and that's something that people need to be mindful of. And it's interesting that with all of the uh, the funding and things that has been presented and things that they have done for small business owners, for corporations, all of these PPP loans and other loans that we had been hearing about, it kind of leveled the playing field a little bit for some of those who had not been able to even throw their hat in the realm, or in the ring for anything that was going on, because there weren't these types of things being made available. So it's interesting how as tensions had begun to rise, and those buzzwords of inclusion and diversity and things started to come more into play, and then funding for particular groups that were not necessarily even considered at one point. Now all of a sudden these funds are becoming available, and it kind of, like you said, leveled that playing field a little bit and gave people opportunities that typically wouldn't get those opportunities. So I like that you say that, you were the only person in the room for a while. Now you're starting to see a few more, they're starting to see a little bit more of a trend there. So talk a little
And
bit.
that is so true because you're absolutely right. For especially as business owners or small business owners may have not had access to capital. So when everything was the transition of um, um, politics, new president, new ideas, empathetic president. So we saw one person one way, and then we saw the other president the other way. And it's like, okay, there needs to be a change, and we need to help people. So I think because of this day and age, we are cameras catch everything, and people actually see what's really going on. Because it's not to say that things weren't happening previously.
That's right.
That we everybody, no matter what race, got a chance to actually see things occurring, and we're not happy with it and wanted to make a change and make a difference
Yeah.
in their community. And the ripple effect of the compounding effect of impact of community to change laws and regulations and so forth to really provoke change. And I think that this is the era where we are with the inclusion,
Absolutely.
various races coming together to invoke change, to have a voice, to show that we care, and to also reprimand when someone is not
Right.
of a good behavior.
Right.
Collectively coming together. I think that's important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, I'm grateful for platforms like these and for others where we're saying, okay, we recognize that there are voices that have been silenced or not heard, and now there are opportunities. I think about, I think about African American female entrepreneurs and some of the struggles that they've had. I think about the LGBTQ community. I think about, those who are celebrating Pride and those who are celebrating self-expression, those who are of different nationalities, those who are coming into the country and seeking opportunities to grow for themselves and for their families. There are so many opportunities for us as a community, especially those in the business realm, to be able to recognize the talents that exist beyond what we see surfacely, what we see on the surface. We're quick to judge people based on their appearances, but it's wonderful when we have an opportunity to see people beyond that. And I think some of the pandemic and some of the technology has helped in that, because sometimes if you don't have that camera on and you don't know who you're talking to, but they're talking your language, then you find out that that person is of another race or nationality, or then it's like, oh, I didn't know, because those
And that is so true, because everybody, no matter the race they are, they have certain skills and talents. And you have to be open enough and accepting enough to say, okay, I don't know everything.
right,
Need help. And this person that lives in another country, or Pakistan, let's just say Pakistan, I'm just using as an example. Excellent, excellent in their skill set.
right,
I want this person on my team. So it doesn't matter what race or culture, if they're a good fit for what you're trying to do, let's come together
yeah,
to solve the problem.
absolutely,
There's a point with being, having diverse teams brings, I believe, more, openness to a better solution. And that's one
absolutely,
of the things that we learned, in the training is, you're better when you have diverse minds coming together to tackle a problem,
right,
because you're going to have different perspectives, and you have to be open to those perspectives, because you just never know. You're not, you're not the only one that goes through things, right?
right,
And people go through things in a different way, but it's a different perspective, and then coming together to solve that problem. The end user, which is the client, is a happy camper for that, because
right.
you're bringing in diverse teams
That's
to solve
it.
the problem.
I think that that's awesome, and that's definitely key, because you don't want things to be one-sided. You want those perspectives. Sometimes if you just have a particular group and they're trying to solve the problem, they may not even consider some of the things that diversity would bring. So you want to be able to open up avenues of that. That's a matter of not having closed-minded but open-minded people who are willing to say, hey, there are other possibilities, there are other solutions beyond these things that we've come up with. And it's always about taking things to the next level. We talk about, oh, we want to level up, we want to take things to the next level, we're going to go to the next level. How do you get there doing the same thing all the time? It's
You
those
know what?
places that make things different.
Right. And one of the things about the culture, and maybe you can relate to this, is how when you were young, and then the young people, you have the older people talking. Go sit in the corner somewhere. Don't You can't engage in the conversation.
Right.
This is grown people talking.
That's right.
Not open to the suggestions of a
Yes.
younger group, if you will. But I think now in this day and age, we all need, now it's the millennials, and I guess, what is that? I don't even know, the XYZ, what the generation.
Yeah. Yeah. We might be Generation X or Generation Y. Yeah. I get
Yeah,
confused
all
after
of
the
that, the
baby
younger
boomers.
people, we need to listen to hear their point of and their perspective, their perspective as well when we're coming together.
Yeah, people need a seat at
Because
the
it's
table.
amazing.
Everyone needs a seat at the table, to
Yes.
be able to have those conversations and to, not feel as though, their voice doesn't count. Okay, so like I said, we talk about diversity, and of course, we hear about equity when we are addressing equality that we want to see amongst races, but also among gender. We've seen a lot of inequality between men and women, especially in the business realm. The financial differences, differences in status and how things are presented to one group over another. So what was something that you learned a little bit about when with regards to equity?
I think, and with equity, I guess some of the issues is I guess two things. Some of the issue is the pay gap, that still exists,
Yes.
and everybody knows about it. And trying to close the gap between men and women doing, the same type of work, but yet there's a large pay gap.
Right.
And really saying that, okay, this is something that we know is there and it's a work in progress. We have to continue to close that gap, of inequity, in regards to the pay scale.
Mm.
Other thing in regards to equity, in regard is the education of children, meaning that depending on, for sometimes it's depending on the county you live, determines what type of access you're going to have to
Mm.
premium educational tools, versus someone in a social economic disadvantaged area may
Mm.
have equity. So that's a inequity there that needs to be closed as well. So it's a point, I think, of acknowledging the fact that these are burning issues, and it's going to have an impact long term
Mm.
and on, the people who work in the industry, and the economy in the long term, if there's an inequity in regards to access to
Right.
quality materials.
Yeah. I mean, and that's something that's huge. It's huge when we talk about, those disparities. I think about that, especially when the pandemic hit and you had children that, were able to jump on their tablets because they had one,
Right.
and you have families who had one computer and mom or dad had to be on that computer for work, and it did not leave a device for the child to use. And so how are they gaining access to the education that they needed? So, I think that this pandemic brought about a lot of questions that needed to be answered with regards to that. People say, oh, it's
Mm-hmm.
easy, we'll just jump on technology. Everybody does not have access to technology. Everybody does not have access to consistent electrical sources that can keep those things going, even if they had them. So
Right.
there are just so many things that have been coming to the forefront that
Mm-hmm.
these diversity, equity, and inclusion courses and conversations are bringing to the surface, and it's something that like I said, we've only scratched the surface. It's
Oh yeah.
we've just scratched the surface. I look at, we have a female vice president. That's huge. And so,
Huge.
that 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 put a little bit of a little hammer into that, solid foundation that has been established for years, that this is, something that can only be obtained by a, Anglo-Saxon,
And that was based on,
male.
the mindset of the tradition of this is how it's always been. So, and you still have people that's in that mindset, why change it? This is how we did it, or this is how it worked previously,
Mhm.
and was not open to change.
Right.
Fortunately, enough people are open to change. And it deals with that culture, the culture that you're in and how you're brought up, but then keep it in mind that you have to be open to something else.
Yeah. It's a matter of mindset. Everything is about mindset and changing mindset and moving away from those things that we were taught and being open to those things that can be.
Right.
Sometimes we are conditioned to do the things that we do because that's what grandma said to do, or that's what my family's always done, and really asking the hard question of why we do and why we believe the things that we do and believe. Why do we do that? And then we can begin to open the doors of understanding and then reach back to those who may not know and begin to educate them as well. And that's why I think it's wonderful that they have programs and certifications like the one that you have recently obtained to talk about those things and to bring those things to the surface. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the inclusion because that is a huge one, and for me, it's a difficult one for people to be able to digest. They can talk about, okay, we understand that we live in a diverse world and we see those things and we understand those things and we understand that we've been fighting for equality for years. But when we talk about including someone, when we talk about that piece of inclusion and saying that, you know, not just identifying the issues, but saying, okay, we identify it. And now we want to talk about how do we incorporate, how do we include those who have been excluded into that workspace or into that area.
And I think that has to be very intentional
Hmm.
because some people sometimes tend to just kind of go to the background, and then you're like, if they don't speak up and say, hey, I'm here, then they tend to be overlooked. So it's a two-way street on the inclusion, but letting saying, hey, I'm here, I am of value, use me,
Right.
and then be willing and open to a different perspective to say, hey, come on in. Because I think that with inclusion, especially in this pandemic, it has been very important because of the isolation that we all have experienced. Whether, even though I may be working virtually, I'm still alone by myself. And all that we've experienced throughout the pandemic and in this society, I think that it's important that we understand the value that one brings. Each one of us can bring to an organization, to a group,
Right.
whether it be a volunteer group or a community. Everybody has value, and they
Mm.
can do some part of the program, or even maybe a small part, but everybody has something to give.
Yeah.
And it's important, I think, is to give individuals opportunities to show up.
Yes. Yes. And that is huge. I love that you say value because that's it. We want to feel valued. We want to feel appreciated for the
Yes.
things that we do. That is huge. And I think that also comes with communication.
Yes.
Communication is huge in this because how
Mhm.
you talk to people is going to determine, how people will respond. And
Mhm.
I'll say this, I think about a training that I participated in not long ago, and the presenter was speaking about uh, a teacup, and she was talking. She said, suppose you had a teacup and you were walking past a coworker and you spilled tea on that person. It wasn't your intention to spill the tea on that person, but the tea was spilled on the person. You apologized for it. Okay. But does that mean that tea didn't leave a stain on that person's clothes? Does it mean that tea didn't burn that person and may have left a second or third degree burn on that person? We may not intend to harm somebody with our actions or our words, but it doesn't mean that it didn't leave a mark or that it didn't leave a stain on that person. And I think that when we talk about inclusion and we talk about equity and we talk about diversity, that we're mindful of the things that we say because they can leave a mark or they can leave a stain on somebody. And what are we doing to remove those marks and those stains that we've left outside of just saying, I'm sorry? It's not
Right.
about recognizing it, it's about taking that step beyond to what we're going to do about
And also with inclusion, it also affects your mental state.
it. Yes.
I think that's very important as well in regards to being productive. When you always feel left out, that does, some people feel some kind of way when they're always feeling left everything.
That's right.
No. And it leads to devaluation.
Yeah.
It leads to lack of self-worth, of feeling that no one loves you. So that plays a role in it as well. So, it can lead to self-destruction.
Yeah.
So being inclusive, no matter who it is or what situation, but really saying, well, let me think about this. Let me ask, what does the team think? In certain instances, let me get some other suggestions, different perspectives on this particular situation before I make a final decision.
Right.
Um, that can really just really have a value add in your business and also your personal life.
Yeah. I mean, and that's important. I think that, I want us to just touch one more time on those things that you learned about, ways that we can, successfully help to move in that direction of inclusion. I know we talked about communication being one of the things that is paramount, being able to, and that it happens on both sides, that it has
Right.
to be something that is expressed from the person, who is experiencing that exclusion, or that person that is experiencing that feeling of being devalued, being able to speak up for themselves, and also for that person who may see it happening to that person, them coming in and partnering with them as well, so that there's that open door policy where they're able to say, okay, they're comfortable enough to be able to come in and say, I have an issue, I would like to discuss this, or I would like to talk about, what it is that I'm experiencing, and knowing that it's not going to fall on a deaf ear.
Right. And what I like to also say in regards to diversity and inclusion, really it's a top-down approach. It's very important to have the buy-in from, especially in the workplace, from the executives within the organization. They should be part of, every aspect of it because when anything happens, things change when you have the top executives on in your corner and hey, we need to implement this, that, and other, or implement policies in regards to and putting their approval stamp on it. So within the employee resource groups, have executives, have those managers, those supervisors run those groups or be a part of those groups to let the regular employees or or individuals that's part of the team know that it's not just at the lower level. We feel good. We want to get together. No, this is something that can affect the overall, overarching way that company runs their business. And you want to know as an employee that corporate or has your back.
Right.
And they believe in the value that you bring. They believe in diverse teams and being, and then also just being inclusive and not exclusive when they are making major decisions for the direction of the company. So that's very important to have the management team, um, spearhead.
Right.
That is one of the things that we learned. Spearhead these ERGs and then be a participant, of the groups to where I feel comfortable where I can talk with the management team as well as my fellow colleague about different aspects of diversity, equity, inclusion.
That's good. Just like you said, top down. because if they don't buy into it, then it's like you said, it all trickles down from them. If it doesn't start there and it starts from the bottom up, it can crumble before it gets there.
Right.
So it's always good, like you said, to at least have them buy in. And I'm sure that that's something that as you go into organizations and as you coach, that you bring those things, to those executives, because that's where it begins. The change begins there. We think about the president, as you spoke about earlier, when there was a change in our commander in chief. There were some things that he changed, and those things are going to be representative of him and his leadership. So it's
Yes.
all about definitely touching the leadership and making sure that they're the ones that are implementing these things. And just like you said, being a part of it, not just saying, yeah, okay, that's a good idea. Y'all go ahead and work it. But like you said, to spearhead it. I think
Right.
that's a huge thing for people to realize. They need to spearhead it and show that they are actively
Mhm.
interested and willing to make those changes.
And you know what? It's important to understand when you have a good DE and I initiative within your organization, whether it be small business, medium or large business. When you are looking to hire staff, and they know that you have a strong DE&I initiative within or policies within your organization, that could actually help you in recruitment
Absolutely.
to recruit the best of the best because they know that they're going to feel valued and validated with their inputs and what they bring to the organization. So it can be a win-win situation. So not only are you helping existing employees and also changing the mindset of the organization top down, but you can also be a beacon of recruiting those diverse teams of individuals, different backgrounds, race, and so forth, that can enhance the ability of the organization to produce.
Yeah, I think that that's something that is critical. And like you say, you talk about building diverse teams. You talk about bringing people, in that are going to help to make those changes. And I mean, I guess we'd be remiss not to say that it also helps to weed out those who may not be willing to be a part of that team. I think because
Yeah.
when they see that and they see that it's something that is trending, with the organization in this direction that they're going in, you'll find that there'll be some who will choose to say, okay, well, this is not so much the fit that I thought, I have with this company. I'm not interested in going in this way. So I think that, being able to, again, have those leaders come in and to speak about those things, it's going to change the environment. It's going to
Yes.
change the atmosphere of the business, and is going to let those who may not be on board realize that this may be their time to depart. So I think that's important too.
And I also want to I want to let the listeners know too, especially as a small business in regards to getting starting in your business. Maybe you have not scaled to have a full staff, right? So it may be you may be a solopreneur right now. So you can still practice diversity, equity, and inclusion. You can practice that through the people that you subcontract with, the people that consult that you outsource different projects and you're doing consulting with them. It's so many ways that you can actually structure your organization to have the DEI initiative, even though you're a small business owner. So you can start off that, in your foundational principles of establishing your business and scaling your business by having that program in place.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with having it in place before things begin to take off, because then you've already got that established. But what I hear when you say that is that it starts with us. It starts with
Yes.
us as individuals, and as we build, we can teach others and show others based on what it is that we hold true, the values that we hold true,
Mm-hmm.
the diversity, equity, and inclusion, I mean, standards that we're building, not only for ourselves personally, but that others are able to see that and grow from that. So it looks like it begins with us. And that's
Yes.
the wonderful thing to remember, that it starts with us, and then it starts with us working collectively to continue, the momentum on that. So I think that that's something that is huge. I'm glad that it's something that is trending. I'm glad that it is something that is being talked about, and that people are seeing the importance in being trained on. And I mean, there are so many, I have seen so many courses and so many certifications being offered to people talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, because it's finally gaining some traction. And I think it's finally gaining the momentum that it needs to make sure that we're building. So,
Yes.
and saying that, any other parting words on equity, diversity, and inclusion that you want to leave our listeners with, so that way they can start looking at those things in not only in their personal lives, but in their professional lives as well.
I think that it's important to keep an open mind when you are looking to hire staff or consultants or even subcontract with other business owners, because of the value that they can bring to your organization. I think that, there's different ways you can do that, through assessments, through extensive communications and so forth, dialogue, to make sure that there's synergy between you and another person. So it's so many different ways you can use, you can use the information and the tools that you have through DEI in order to make sure that you have a strong foundation within your organization.
Awesome. I think that that's, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And I think that that's information that, you know, is going to continue to, move us in that positive direction, move us closer and closer to our goal of having those types of businesses be available. And it's not just about the client, it's about those who are the stakeholders who are investing in that. And I think that it's important. You said, there has to be synergy. Asking those who you subcontract with, those who you interact with, what are your policies, or do they have any policies? Asking the question to see if they are on that page, if that's something that they're considering, and then we can consider if those are people that we want to have or conduct business with. It's important to do that. So I thank you for all of the information that you brought, Tina. I mean, you know, uh, every time you get together, it's something new, and it's something exciting, and it's something that's continuing to grow you. And I love that you always reach back, and you always try to educate others, and you try to bring others along, and you try to network, and you try to keep us, continuing to support and to encourage each other. And for that, I am thankful. I am thankful that you took time out of your schedule to come and talk with us today about diversity, inclusion, and equity. Okay, so thank you for that.
Thank
Now,
you.
of course, here on How Now, we always talk about what our guests are doing in the now. What are some things that you are doing or have been implementing in your life as a result of this pandemic that has gotten you through it?
Self care. Care. I've been on a grind for many years now, establishing my business, and my focus is self care. I think that's very important in order for me to show up great,
Mm,
to make sure that I take care of myself, mind, body, and spirit, in regards to making sure that I can do what I need to do, because I got a lot of things I got to check off my bucket list. Right? Constantly learning and growing and expanding, and then also making pivoting through this pandemic, finding new ways to bring information to touch lives, and be very impactful. So this how I always like to take lemons and make lemonade. I always like to look at the other side.
right.
Through this whole entire year and a half, it's been very traumatic, it personally, through my life, because of death of my mother, death
Mm,
of my law, and so constantly staying on the grind, because I know the end result is that I will have the type of business that I want to have and the life that I want to have if I stay focused.
Mm.
So that's one thing as business owners, we have to stay focused and have your goals established.
Mm.
Have an end in mind of what that's going to look like and be okay if you do a pivot, but be strategic when you're doing that pivot and make sure that it's going to be in alignment with what you want to do, in your business endeavors. So I'm excited about that. I love working with women. That is my passion, my
Mhm.
spot. And, I made a pivot this year of working specifically with women, small business owners,
Yeah.
teaching them about government contracts, about business automations, business organizations, leadership development. I think those things are crucial when you are a business owner. Uh,
Mm.
but then also making sure that, self care. I do, with self care, I even, developed a product line, TLC
Yeah.
products.
Yes. Say
I
that.
developed a product line, self care and self love. So it's important that we pause through this pandemic and breathe. You know, and really take it all in and be responsible for our actions, but then also be considerate of others.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that is what I wanted to leave with everyone on diversity, equity, inclusion. Be responsible for your actions and be considerate of others. If you do that, the love is going to show, right? It's going to show. And that's what I want to leave with everyone today.
Oh my goodness. Beautiful words, sound words. I love that. I love that you say pivot sometimes. And yes, sometimes it's necessary to make a pivot in order to continue in the path that we're going on. It may sometimes look like it's going to go straight and then all of a sudden it takes a turn. Then we have to learn how to pivot to get back to where it is that we want to be, that we make that alignment. So I think that that's beautiful. I'm happy for your product line. It is a wonderful line, TLC. Okay, is it called TLC Pampers? I want to
Yeah,
get it right.
TLC is tlcpamper.com. That's the
Yes.
website.
TLC Pamper. I want to make sure I have it right, because, you know, and speaking of that, let's talk about ways in which people can get in contact with you because I'm sure that they'll want to know about those who are small business owners who may be looking for government grants and also those who may want to be interested in your product line and also to just find out the other services that you offer through your business. So what is one way that,
Sure. They
one or
can,
two ways to get in contact?
yeah, definitely. So, a couple ways you can reach out to me. My website, which is Greer Business Solutions with an S.com. Greer Business Solutions.com.
.com.
Website and contact me there. You can also email me if you like to talk to me directly. Tina at GreerBusinessSolutions.com.
Okay.
And then also, if you are interested in self care, all natural bath and body products, self care and self love, it is www.tlcpamper.com.
All right, tlcpamper.com. So www.greerbusinesssolutions.com, or you can email Tina at greerbusinesssolutions.com. Or if you are interested in her product line, go to www.tlcpamper.com. And with that, I will say thank you again, Tina, for joining us and for bringing, your wisdom and your wealth of knowledge on the topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I wish you the best in all that you continue to endeavor in. And, like I said, I wish you nothing but continued success. I
Thank you
love you,
so
my
much.
sister. Sisters united, always. We will
Always.
be sisters united. And with that, I'd like to say thank you all for joining us here on another edition of How Now, where we talk about how to live in the now. And until I see you the next time, I say peace.